Kia ora and welcome to Sam's Take, a series about entertainment news and reviews with me, Sam Realstone. Today I'm diving into Pixar's latest film Luca for another review. Luca is directed by Enrico Casarosa and has landed straight on Disney Plus rather than in cinemas as a result of the pandemic. The film follows a young sea monster named Luca, voiced by Jacob Tremblay, who lives off the waters of the Italian coast. Luca is curious about the human world, where sea monsters are feared but also have the ability to look like humans if they venture onto dry land. Against the warnings of his parents, Luca heads onto dry land after meeting another sea monster boy named Alberto, voiced by Jack Dylan Grazer. There the boys meet local human girl Julia, voiced by Emma Berman, and Luca spends more and more time away from his family as he and Alberto wish to buy a Vespa scooter so they can see the rest of the world. Luca and Alberto's relationship is a bit like Ariel and Scuttle from The Little Mermaid, as Luca kind of navigates his way through the human world and Alberto tries to teach him human customs, but they're usually wrong. But Luca's imagination and the games that he plays with Alberto seem very authentic. They kind of remind me of what I was like when I was a kid, so Pixar seem to have captured that pretty well. Now the story does really leave something to be desired, to be quite honest, and it's a pretty simple premise. But what actually kept me really engaged was the animation, which is not really a surprise from Pixar. To me, the characters look like they've been designed as if they're stop motion models with painted on freckles and things like that, and I personally just have a bit of a soft spot for stop motion, as most of my favourite movies growing up were actually stop motion. So like Nightmare Before Christmas and Corpse Bride and that kind of thing. So this film really just kind of evoked a sense of nostalgia. And because of their designs, I just wanted to see these characters move and react to the world around them, and they were really just quite charming, to be quite honest. Also, the animation of the sea monsters turning into humans just really shows that Disney and Pixar have always got something new to pull out of their bag of tricks. I would have liked to have spent a bit more time with certain characters, figuring out who they are and why, but the movie's only about an hour 40, so it's pretty brisk, and it is made for kids, so you can kind of get around having a bit of a two-dimensional character here and there. The stakes aren't super high, there's nothing that's terribly world-threatening, and I know this comparison is made a lot when it comes to Pixar movies, and it is sort of the benchmark, but the movie's certainly not an Inside Out, or a Coco, or Soul, which came out last year. It doesn't have an overarching message or lesson to be taught, something terribly profound, but that's okay. Like, not every movie has to. Sometimes a story can just be about a couple of kids wanting to buy a Vespa so they can see the world, despite the fact that those kids are also sea monsters. However, I feel like there is a good metaphor in there for anxiety and the little voice in your head that tells you that you can't do things, and the characters in the film call that voice Bruno, and I feel like that's a good, accessible way to communicate that kind of idea to young kids. That idea is applied pretty poignantly in a few points in the film, and I won't lie, I got a bit teary here and there, and really just goes to show that Pixar's ability to pull on your heartstrings is definitely second to none. For me, while it was a story about accepting yourself and having others accept you, I also found it was a story about parents, and namely a story about dads, and how the behaviour of a dad and different kinds of dads can really have an effect on a young boy. Something I noted was that the opening credits were actually in Italian, which is something I don't think Pixar's done before. But it also was kind of interesting to the fact that they've done that effort, and it's a nice note, but most of the main cast, if not all of the main cast, aren't played by people with Italian backgrounds. Now, why that's not necessarily mandatory, it's just kind of a bit jarring when there's kind of been extra care taken for the setting and for the use of language in the opening credits, and pretty much every other extra in the film having an Italian accent or voice actor. As I say, it was just a bit jarring, particularly considering that Pixar's made deliberate steps towards having more diverse films with Coco and Soul. This isn't to say that the cast gives a bad performance by any means. It was just kind of something to note for me, particularly with the care given to such a nice portrayal of Italian culture. Also, just some movie nerd trivia, Luca is the second Pixar film after Soul last year to not feature the voice of John Ratzenberger, who has voiced a character in every other of the 22 Pixar films over the years. My two favourite characters in this movie were actually Julia's dad, Massimo, played by Marco Berricelli, and Luca's grandma, played by Sandy Martin. Massimo is designed as the stereotypical character with the mustache and the eyebrows that cover his eyes, and I just find that charming. I don't really have an explanation for it, and I also just really love that his companion, his pet that he takes to work, is a wee chubby cat, who also actually has a lot of character in itself. Luca's classic Italian nonna looking after her grandson is just spot on. My entire close friend group have all got Italian backgrounds, so I've heard a lot of stories and met their families about this kind of a concept, and it just shows that it is just universally known that all nonnas are very protective. As always with Pixar, the music does what it should, and makes you feel things. Composer Dan Romer's done an amazing job with the score, and each scene has music that really showcases the intended mood and tone. So overall, while certainly Luca isn't the most amazing movie that Pixar's produced, I just found it fun and really beautiful to look at. So it's a recommendation from me, even if it is just to put on for the kids during the rainy days. And I'd recommend staying through the initial end credits. There's a little extra storytelling that really showcases what Pixar can do with the bare minimum. That's all for this episode. Join me again on Sam's Take for more entertainment news and reviews.